Notice Atlanta's positioning here. They want to hold much more aggressively than what Fusion was willing to do.
Yeah,
They're doing
Atlanta.
the same back off thing.
In general, Atlanta's a much more aggressive team, which we've seen pay out dividends for them up to this matchup, if I remember correctly. I know, particularly when we faced them, that was a thing that we had to prepare for in our match against them, was prepare to be facing a very aggressive Ryan.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. They're both playing the positioning game very similarly. Fusion did the same thing where they held right there, and then they just scooted back to point.
Yeah.
Which is very weird, at least for Atlanta or for Fusion, because they didn't have any ultimates that they were looking to build. They just they were looking to burn time, really, which is a smart play, but it's not an aggressive one, which tends to get people run over.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed as the difference between Fusion Uni and Atlanta is Fusion Uni is a much more frontline aggressive team. So that while both teams in this matchup will tend to play more aggressive, Atlanta specifically will look to have their frontline, so like Gator, Sugar Free, and Saucy, always up and aggressive, right? They'll always be like trying to be in your face, setting tempo on you. Whereas Fusion plays much more of a team-oriented playstyle, kind of like a spider, I guess, almost, right? Like where they'll leave their Rhine more aggressive than not aggressive, but then they'll start kiting backwards more and more, trying to give space for the rest of the team to carry, which can bite them in the ass, but for the most part, I think works very well for them.
Playing your tanks aggressive does leave you open to things like that. While they were able to get the counters off, they had to drop quite a few ultimates into that fight, which should benefit Fusion a whole lot leading into this next one.
Yeah, Fusion's definitely a leading position. If I was Atlanta in this situation, I'd want to play much, much more aggressive than I did previously. Like, almost like to the point of running into their spawn to fight them. I think it's really smart from Fusion to pass high ground to prevent that.
Yep. You really need to play more aggressive when you know you're already down ultimates, and especially with Rally still up.
Yeah, not only do you need to play more aggressive, you need to be the team that's setting tempo more often than not. You can get away with not doing it, but you have to be a very skilled team to not do it.
Yeah, and already dropping your biggest burst heal as soon as Trank goes away, you're done for.
Yeah, at this point it's all over with the cleanup. Good play from Fusion overall. Atlanta tried their best. Like, they weren't able to play aggressive enough to set tempo, so they reset the point, trying to reset it from there, but only so much you can do. Playing point just puts you at such like a huge disadvantage when you're trying to set tempo.
Yeah, with their more aggressive tank line, it was very interesting to see the first, kind of the beginning of the point, which we'll go back to. Assuming this goes, yeah.
That's good, Grav. Hawk should have hit that, to be fair. He should have seen it coming, like from a mile away.
Yes. I'm skipping around to find the beginning. I'll play pause.
No worries. I don't think playing point is bad.
That Atlanta has a more aggressive tank line typically. It was interesting to see how they path here and how much priority they put on positioning rather than taking a little too far.
I don't think playing point is as bad as rotating to point and attacking damage when taking something is bad.
I guess pretty open for them to do.
Yeah. So Bipop commented and said, I don't think playing point is bad as rotating to point and attacking and taking damage while doing it is bad. The reasoning why we said playing point there in that situation was bad was not because playing point is bad in general. Playing point is fine when it's a neutral stalemate because you're holding the objective. But in the scenario where Atlanta was down resources, they had to do something to compensate for being down resources. So you don't want to be at an even state, right? Because if you're at point, it's like a 50-50 line. So, you know, if we're on point here, it's 50-50. If we're down alts, then we don't want to be at 50-50 because they'll inherently have an advantage over us. So we want to be much more aggressive, setting tempo into them so that way we compensate for having the inferior alt economy.
Yeah, and at the very least, if you're taking a faster fight, that means you're going to get more. Like if you're taking a faster fight, it means that they're going to be further away from the point when the fight resets, which of course it's going to. Either you're going to win or you're going to lose, and you will determine that much more quickly, which will give you more time before they hit 99 and you get put in the OT, you know, oh shit, we need to go touch the point situation. So even if they only pulled out ultimates, they still would have been buying themselves more time to try to deal with that grav, to try to deal with some of the other ultimates, and have a better chance of it touching the point together as a team versus potentially not having that chance like what we saw.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, I misread his question. Actually, I'm sorry. He said, "I don't think playing point is as bad as rotating to point." IBCrazy is a little quiet. Ooh, okay. Let's try to bump IBCrazy up then. One moment, chat. Hey, Crazy, could you say something for me, dog?
Yes, I can say things.
Is that better, chat? It's literally as loud as I can make him, so I sure hope it's better.
Some things, maybe other things.
All right, thanks. You're as loud as I can get you, so hopefully it's loud enough.
Yeah, that's
alternatively
kind of the spot that I was in.
to keep their engage from happening.
But if you take a look at this first fight, I think you'll see why I think it's so weird. They group up around door, which is pretty standard, and then they know that Fusion's coming. Chang didn't use his charge, which is why he's a little later. They're all 6 right here.
Yeah, I can see your
point.
point,
Right now is split 2 and 2, right on the door. So you'd think that their first movement would be there, running an aggressive team, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead, they don't. They spread out even more, as you'll see, and open up some opportunities for Fusion to play as the aggressive team.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that was a rush from Fusion, or from Atlanta, rather.
Especially if you know that you have mechanical advantage, which I'm not saying that Atlanta necessarily does. These are two pretty even teams.
Yeah.
Position
I agree
for
with
position. Just the amount of poke damage that Atlanta took before they even got, Bernard, who was somebody that literally flew this direction and pushed them back out of the point. It is just insane. You shouldn't be able to. Let me get back to it. I wish their timeline was more easily worked on.
Yeah. Visor isn't the best, but it beats everything else, so.
Yeah.
Is it like super pixelated for you, or is that just me?
It's not too bad for me.
Okay, maybe I'm just bad. Yeah, I don't know. It was definitely... I feel like if you wanted to go point that aggressively, then you should have just, like, played the outside pathing to point. Like, it's bad to go that way, but if your only objective is getting to point, at least that way you're safe, you know? I feel like at this point, like, Atlanta can't commit to point, right? Like, I guess their thought is, oh, we all got super low, so we have to, like, back out, but I don't know.
Well, I think they did push into point, but then Bernard goes around and does this boot.
Does really beat everything else, or
pushes them back out in the open. But just look at how much damage Atlanta is taking compared to Fusion, all because Fusion is staying relatively stacked.
Well, not only is Fusion's playing relatively stacked, they're also LOSing a lot of the damage sources with natural cover, too. Like, in their pathing, they weren't walking in the open, and they made sure to stick behind the Rhine the entire time. Again, just, like, really crisp playing fundamentals. You know, something that Fusion's has always been known for is just, like, very clean fundamentals. Yo, Noro, thanks for the follow, dog.
That was a nasty boop on Bernard, but he didn't even hit 50% HP.
Yeah, there's
Dogman said Ajax is almost there. Sugar Free uses pack on Dogman, and Saucy's at half. Just from all the poke that they were taking.
Yeah,
pretty nuts.
It was a really, really clean engage from Fusion.
Did I just like skip the map?
Yeah, you were on Nimbani now.
Oh, so Fusion takes it quickly.
Very, very quickly, apparently.
No, Atlanta wins first fight.
Dude, good old Nimbani, you gotta love it. My favorite map, /S. Oh, dude, we're with the fishes!
Nobody starts off with the fishes.
I think pretty much every single time I've played this map and recorded on it, I've started with the fishes. Well, it's like 100% fishes.
You're a big brain, so...
Yeah, well, you know.
Alright, so we have Fusion on the counter goats. Or at least as good as you can probably get. Without a Mercy, which is a little interesting. but okay. And then we have Atlanta running full goats.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, basic basic kind of pathing. Atlanta's going to be going through white. Fusion's definitely going to be taking the outside path, probably sending Snillo, not maybe into white, but to scout white side.
I actually think Alarm will path white here. I think that's an alarm play. It's like he paths white, and he goes for a right click or two to bait the enemy team into engaging onto him, and if they do, they all get booped. I feel like that's something he'd do. Oh well,
maybe.
never mind.
They're getting very stuck in white, which is not always ideal into Sphera comp.
It's worth noting that Fusion University does, Fusion Uni, they play a lot like XL does, right? Like, not XLT, but like XL proper, like where they play to bait their players. So like, everybody knows Alarm is a good player, so they'll try to focus Alarm, and then they'll abuse that by having Alarm play like just completely feeder angles, like that he should never be in. And then the second you try to kill Alarm, there's like 15 people counter diving you and you just die. I'm pretty sure Alarm plays Dojo, so he's not
It's also pretty interesting
range.
About this engagement.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, engage.
Where Dogman's percentages.
Alarm does
one
weird
means
stuff.
that he's low on heals, because he's been doing most of the healing, and two, that Atlanta didn't use their abilities very effectively when they were sitting in white, getting pelted by just about, well, at least Pharah and Alarm.
I think he used Ball as part of what you're saying.
Hmm?
I think he used Ball as well. Dogman did.
Yeah, probably. But like getting stuck in white as goats should almost never happen. Like
Yeah.
You should feel confident enough in Hawk to be able to absorb Nice. Is that how you say his name?
Nice, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you should be able to rely on Hawk to absorb damage and boops coming in from Nice to push across to get here. Because once you're here, then you can start actually fighting and start to try to push into somebody that's out of position. But just sitting in white is free spam angles for everybody else.
NA first to
You
make a
can see
wall?
by the
Yeah.
alt economy.
Good old NA. That was a good disengage from Funi.
I
They're kind of just chilling in for Brush.
No one's really done anything. Atlanta just kind of pushed around the outside, and Fusion moved 2 steps, so they're not inside anymore.
Yeah. Atlanta also used like all their resources to do that. They used boosters, both bubbles. Like they put a lot of resources into that single little, getting them off the point.
Well, Hawk kept looking for Pharah, but he didn't find her.
Yeah, I mean,
Didn't find
Nice is doing a
anything
very
anywhere.
safe job of playing a good angle. I say as he overcommits and dies.
Yeah. Even through the trank.
I mean, you're regardless. He shouldn't have played that angle. If he wanted to go for the barrage, he should have taken the time to rotate around the long side. It's more predictable, but also a lot safer.
Yeah. You rotate around
Excuse
the
me.
long side or just push in the back. Coordinate it so you have your front line pushing into theirs. So you're pulling D.Va's attention, and then just barrage them in the back. There are a lot of openings on this map where you can get value at a barrage, even if it's not strictly damage.
Yeah. If nothing else, you force abilities.
Especially when they're that low on abilities, likelihood is high you're going to get damage. Full rotate to goats from Fusion. Go figure. Definitely going to be a hill to climb back.
I like Atlanta playing passive there since they had the combo. They just like waited and forced Fusion to commit before they used. At least heads up play for them. Just make sure that they get as much time as possible.
Yeah.
No, I think not stuffing white's the play there, honestly. Like, they have to contest
I really
point,
think
you have a
they
combo.
needed all of
Just force them.
those ultimates that they ended up using because they knew that Lucio was not around, but it's better to guarantee the one fight and capitalize on whatever ult economy you have left,
Yeah.
especially when you're this high percentage-wise. It's a pretty big shatter.
Hey, that was pretty good.
Gator showing some real patience.
Waiting for the bash shatter, yeah.
Throughout that fight, there was at least a couple of times when he could have dropped it.
I don't know about you, but I'm definitely not going to miss bash shatter.
Like as soon as Chang 6 shield dropped, it was out there. That's a good job.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a big fan of splitting goats on either side of this point, but I think for that type of play, where you have an ultimate that you really want to use, splitting around both sides, it'll mean you use more abilities at the beginning, but it should open up at least the opportunity for something like that in the future.
Mm-hmm. Ajax doing Ajax things.
Going for the scooter, man.
Ajax and Pooks are like the most annoying Lucios and contenders.
Mm-hmm. You can see this is kind of where splitting on both sides is going to hurt Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Hawk used so much of his Matrix while the rest of Fusion kind of just pushed in that they ended up burning him early. Which then loses sugar free, which then means you lose. Well, at least you should be losing everyone else.
Yeah. Atlanta shouldn't be committing any ults to this fight at all. Atlanta should have taken, in my opinion at least, anytime you're up 99-0 on a Koth map, just like be hyper aggressive with a dry fight. Just run at them, force out their abilities, make sure they use ults to cap the point, then retake.
Yep. The only reason you shouldn't is if you know that they blew all of their ult economy last fight.
Yeah, unless you're like drastically ahead in ults, then it would be fine.
Yep. Because if you dry fight into a team that's going to dry fight you, if you lose that, then you're pretty much screwed.
Mm-hmm. Good job from FU to stuff.
Caught him in a good spot too.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why Dogman used
yeah,
beam there.
Because you want to swap.
Which makes sense. Moira Goats is not preferred against End Goats.
Yeah, you're
You really don't need the
disadvantage.
overheal if you're using your abilities correctly. And
see, if ATL was huge brain, they would have done one of the jump across like gap split to get onto point faster. Would have been the big brain strategy. You jump gap, then you speed boost onto the back line of the other team. They'll never see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
Works all the time in EU.
Late Trank.
I feel like, yeah, it was a late trank from Alarm, and I feel like it was a really unnecessary beat from Ajax. Okay, they did it like twice, Bip. That's basically all the time.
And showing some of their, I guess, lack of coordination.
I saw 1 point do it
Atlanta's
once,
used,
therefore it worked all the time.
Into the last 2 fights, I believe, when they haven't used enough to win, but they also haven't saved enough to win the next one.
What, dude?
It's kind of been a
but did it work, Bitbop?
Which is the last thing that you want to do when you're up 99-0.
Because as far as I recall, they were great the one time somebody tried it, which in my mind basically means it's unbeatable. Yeah. I like this aggression out of Fusion. They're really smart about playing chicks and just being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I say as, oh, okay, well, worked out.
Yeah,
dude,
really
that strat has a 100% win rate, just like my
I don't say dive mindset, but the dive-esque mindset.
My mercy.
Where you wait till they push in far enough that you're starting to block some of the LOS in the backline, and then you push in. You push in as soon as they have no other opportunity, but to push in even harder into you. Because if you engage too late, if you engage too late, then you give them too much space, and they have a higher chance or higher likelihood of winning. But if you push in too early, then they just kite out, and there's no impact from you taking space aggressively. And Fusion just in general has seemed to find that balance between too late and too early, and making sure that they're on the edge of too much aggression, so that they're constantly kind of sticking their foot in Atlanta's mouth.
Yeah.
Both between first point and this one, they've shown superior choke control, which I think is one of the biggest reasons why they won both of those maps.
Yeah, they definitely didn't choke there.
Yeah. All right. I think you can use W.
You sure can.
Bonnie.
Everybody's favorite map.
Your least favorite map? Really?
Everybody's favorite map. Nah, I'm indifferent. IMO Atlanta hard fed away their ult
I
rotation
actually
there.
really
Yeah,
like
I agree.
Embody because, at least from a GOAT standpoint, you have to run something slightly different on first to try to win. If you get past first, then second and third are pretty boring, but whoever is able to show, the most aggression and the ability to play something else on first typically is a better time of it.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
All right, comp for comp, we got Dive Creek comp out of Atlanta, pretty interesting, and then we have the counter goats with an Ana. Have you seen a lot of Ana play? I know that this is one of her preferred maps, but
I have not seen a lot of Ana being played, at least not on this map. Well, I mean, situationally. Obviously, each team has their own things, but I haven't seen it a ton.
sure, yeah. I mean, of any map, I think this is the one where you can get away with Ana probably the best. This and probably Jib, if I had to, toss two maps out there. But it's interesting to see,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Yeah, I definitely agree.
With how good some of the other supports currently are.
ATL is 100% going to swap over to goats in like 35 seconds.
Yep.
They're going to lose like one push and then swap.
It's also a really shitty position to push.
I don't think they wanted to try to force their way through the choke into him. But if you're going to go this way, you might as well just path under.
Yeah. Well, pathing under just makes more sense. Putting your Kree in this position forces him to try to control so many angles that it's impossible to get effective damage out.
No, he's basically playing like...
He's doing as good of a job as I could expect from him, given the location that he picked.
Yeah, I mean, Saucy's basically sitting here playing hard Kovacs, praying that somebody does something eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kree is best on high ground, best on, open air areas, places where he has actual line of sight. The alleyway down here is probably the least line of sight that you can have from a push. The only one that's probably lower is if you push down lower this way.
Yep.
But even then, you're pushing out into a more open area.
It's just like temporarily worse there, or worse English.
Yes. Ideally, you'd want to push high ground or push like half high, half low, whatever you want to do.
They'll probably push high this fight, which should be interesting since if they push high, they're going to get rolled by Barrage. But it seems like the Atlanta type thing to do. Atlanta's one of those rosters where they always do something wacky, and then they like remember how to play the game, and then they do the right thing, which is great. Except for a lot of the time, by the time they remember how to do the right thing, it's in a
surprised
very bad
that
situation.
They got 2 ticks out of that.
FU definitely had an awkward tank positioning for it.
Yeah, I don't really want to say that Atlanta did a great job at taking 2 ticks, but I also don't want to say that, it was all on Fusion failing either. I think it was a pretty solid mix of both teams screwing up a couple different things.
Yeah.
Going for the quick cap, I see.
I'm going to pause here to talk about something. So, Bipop says, pushing high is a terrible opinion with Kree IMO. I mean, okay, so we have this pathing, this pathing, this pathing, and this pathing. Those are the 4 pathings to go to point, right? All of these are kind of icky for Kree against this comp because Kree kind of gets choked out really hard. The most efficient pathing, in my opinion, is for Kree to late peek top. Failing that, then go under and do some shenanigans where you wrap through the high ground and come up behind them. I think those are the 2 most efficient pathings, but in general, here is really bad for Kree. He gets like no value. Here's for Kree. He gets some value, but it's pretty awkward. Up here is really where you want your Kree most of the time, and to get him there, you kind of have to push high. So,
yeah, one of the most optimal plays. I can take it back.
Yeah.
One of the most optimal plays for Kree on this map. Is that red or pink? I'll choose that one. Is to actually late peek top and then put your 2 tanks, so Hawk and Gator at the very least. So Dogman, Saucy, Sugar Free, and Ajax. Ajax can kind of float between the 2, but you put both of your dive tanks here, and then you counter dive up onto where your Kree's going to be, and then your Kree pushes out. So you try to trap whoever's whoever's sitting on this choke, and then burst that particular individual. Then you push out and you take the rest of the point.
And if they don't try to counter dive your crew's just free low, so then you just get to jump their backline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's nobody here, then you can just have your Kree, peek out a little bit, and somebody will show up. It's not the type of thing that teams will let go easily. This high ground, and this high ground are some of the two biggest contested areas. I think this one's more important on the defensive side, just because of the LOS that you get and the impact that you can have from that location. But from the offensive side, you need to take this, especially with Kree, to get the proper LOS to shut down somebody like a Farah.
I just think the door and high ground is extremely hard to get out of against Farah. Yeah, I concur.
All right,
it's definitely a little bit more challenging. You just have to have your divas do stuff for you. Yeah, ready when you are. Like if you have your diva main, she can just matrix up and help you get out. It's a little bit more it's harder to get in, but once you get there, it's much better.
I think it's interesting how hard Atlanta, at least on the last map and now this one, is how hard they're prioritizing point control. When, as we both know, point control is not always the thing that you should be focused on first.
It might be a case of nerves as well. I mean, I don't know about if it's true for everyone, but in my experience, for the most part, when players get nervous, they fall back on their, the core fundamentals that they remember, right? Which, in this case would be point control. So it might just be one of those things where they're all feeling a little nervous, so they're just hyper-focused on being in control of the point.
Pushing the same way for the third time.
Mm-hmm. Because it worked so well the last two times.
Yeah, going for fast point control. That Trank is next to useless.
If you're ever in a position where you're doing the same thing for a third time in a row, you're probably doing something wrong, as a side note for the chats.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful rule of 3, right? If you're ever doing something for 3 times, you need to change it by the 3rd time, because otherwise it's ridiculously predictable.
Yeah. Well, it's not only predictable, but you know that it didn't work the last 2 times, and the defense is going to be transitioning into something better to defend
4th time in a row?
every time.
Even worse, you're right. Yeah, you're just giving him free wins, basically, at this point.
Actual shit did that work? Because I don't think it should have.
Bitbop says it's because they had a bad EMP from Snillo. Which is falsehoods, because Snillo never has a bad EMP in his entire life, so I don't know what it must have been. Okay, so you're going to get a useless...
It was just the EMP. There had to be something else. Because they went from early Trank with sugar-free at half. Their main tank, Gator, is currently over here somewhere. Probably looking for alarm.
Yeah, he's on alarm right now. So then Jangsik is going to reset to kill alarm, or sorry, to kill Gator. The MP is pretty dookie, nobody can follow up. Yeah, I think the MP is the biggest thing. Gator does good zone. They don't end up killing up Saucy. Saucy gets Chang, yeah, it's just over this point. It was a misplay from FU, they had split timings. They should have waited an extra second for the EMP. Just give them half a tick and then go for it.
Well, I think it's also a misplay on Fusion for not prioritizing the point more. Recognizing that that's Atlanta's only goal, you should be prioritizing the point and not trying to engage on them before.
I can agree with that.
If you know that they're going to sprint the point every time, then why try to engage in a choke when there's the high potential that they're going to split up or do something stupid just to put somebody on point to touch it? Why try to engage here when you know that there's going to be one person here and one person here and one person here? Just much easier to pick off in a dive composition. While I think the EMP wasn't ideal, I think that it did open up some opportunity for Atlanta. I think Fusion not prioritizing the point and just making sure that somebody was touching it is a big reason why that broke down.
It also appears that Elk gets nanoed instead of someone else.
Instead of probably Changsik.
Or Nice, yeah, one of the two.
Or Nice, yeah.
Big unlucky rubber ducky.
Yeah, that wouldn't help. So, a couple mismanaged ultimates and some positioning problems. I'd expect to see both teams full rotate over to goats, but I do like dive goats on second. I think it's better in general for the beginning and the end, but the middle chunk right there is a problem child if you're not running Rhine.
Yeah, most teams end up just running like standard goats the entire way just to compensate for that. Just pray for the snowball. This point is pretty snowball-y anyway, so I mean, you might as well just coin flip for the snowball and hope.
Yep. Let's snowball, and it gives you some amount of ultimate advantage leading into third, which is pretty huge. Oh, Chang.
Chang staying alive there is really a bid.
Yeah, I think Gator went a little too early on his primal.
No, he did it like, I don't know. The primal didn't get any value outside of zoning, so I definitely agree. Unless he was like intentionally trying to just go for like a big zoning.
I still think there's better things you could do with primal. Especially because one of the biggest benefits that Winston has in two goats is just the fact that he hits multiple people at the same time. And that amount of damage is not small in a choke point like that. Good
I think Gator should have swapped instead of primaling. He could have done anything else because Fusion just plays slow.
Also,
situationally, yeah.
Communication from the rest of his squad to let them know that Atlanta was crashing in.
You can't really play
I do
slow
like how
mirror.
aggressive Fusion is playing at this point. Of all the points, this one's one of the easiest to choke hold, spawn.
Yeah, selfless one.
It's also really easy to kite away from because there's some very clear, easy pathing that you can take.
I'd agree mostly at Bitbop. I think that in general, Primal could get value, but Gator just really didn't do anything to get value with his Primal. He kind of just AFK'd. Unlucky timing with Gator dying right as they groved.
It was a pretty good beat from Elk, though. Now, is the Trank also necessary? I'm not so sure.
I mean, to be fair, Alarm gets him really, really fast, so for the most part, Fusion will just kind of throw out Trinks whenever they see the opportunity to.
Well, he pops it for the grav.
Yeah, he pops it. Well, I think it's probably one of those communication things where Alarm's like, oh, you know, I'll chance to grab, Alex like, I'll beat the Diva Bomb. And then they just end up stacking unintentionally. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Oh, actually, they beat early, that's why. Okay.
Yeah, they beat for burner, I think. So
who is talking? I am talking, and IBCrazy is the other person hosting the stream. I should update the channel
to beat, but it's actually a really big pick for Saucy. Snillo's going to take a while to get back, so Fusion's going to have to back off and re-engage.
Yeah. It's me, your brother.
Decent job by Fusion to not back off too far. Ooh. That's a huge poop.
It's me. Imagine if King left us again before playoffs. Ooh. That's a new for me, dog. Are you guys confirmed in playoffs yet, or are you still not in there yet?
I want to watch that fight again.
Go for it, dog.
So I'm pretty sure it's just the boop on Chang sick and then having to charge backwards. It kind of broke things down for Fusion. But I want to make sure.
What is your guys' record? Like 9-1 or something?
Good amount of aggression. Fusion playing pretty split here. Oh, this is the... That. Backed up a little too far. There's the pick. Shatter Bomb.
Not confirmed playoffs. Yeah, 8-2. Ooh, boy, you better not lose tomorrow. Or Thursday. Thursday's when you play next. You better not lose Thursday.
Really
lose Thursday, I'm gonna smack you.
On a high ground here.
Yeah.
Did Bernard not have a mech up?
Not sure.
Oh. He bombed and then died.
That's pretty unlucky, honestly.
Yeah. Dogman got... How did... Where's Dogman? Is he over here?
Yeah, I think he's somewhere by there. I think he's bottom Sigma somewhere.
Okay. Interesting. I would have, I mean, they went for the bomb.
Yeah, hit him with the snipe.
Shatter, but
Good old right click.
execution on that is lacking a little bit.
Oh no, Dogman's bottom Axiom. He just hit him with a right, snipe. Unlucky.
Oh, over here.
Yo, what's up, Shimmy? Yeah, somewhere in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely missed execution on that one.
What's up, Morbid?
Little bit of unlucky, but at the same time.
Is that the Reaper skin, Bipop? That skin's sick. Yo, Shimmy, thanks for the follow.
Looking pretty even here. Moving into third. I mean, Atlanta has a little bit more of alt economy behind them, but not nearly enough to overcome the respawn advantage that Fusion's going to have later on in this point.
No worries, Morbid. It'll be up on the YouTube afterwards.
Hit someone for grab bomb.
Okay, that skin's pretty poggers, not gonna lie.
There you go. It's one thing I personally am not a big fan of about GOATs is that alt economy is so hard to judge because the impact that each ultimate has varies so wildly.
Yeah, you kind of really have to rely on the rest of your team to enable your plays. Otherwise, your ults just like won't get value.
And sometimes even if your teammates are all there and you've counted the cooldowns correctly, you know, somebody can still have a bubble up, or maybe your bomb will land like right behind where the brig is compared to right on top of the grav. You know, there are so many different ways that it can break down that those big ultimates can have next to no impact.
Yeah.
Good amount of aggression from Atlanta. Again, Hawk looking for a secondary angle, which can be a downfall for him if he doesn't pay attention, but he does a pretty good job, and he knows the limits of D.Va really well. So I'd expect to see him keep playing D.Va very aggressively moving into either next contender season or Owl, depending on how mid-season pickups go.
Yeah. Hawk does a very good job of playing adjacent angles for the most part on D.Va. Alt rotations and team coordinations. PoggerChamp, using more ults to build ults. Yes, exactly. So you're playing the GOATs, where everybody just kind of AFKs and presses Q. Because I'll press Q better than you press Q, therefore we love Q. GOATs is pretty fun to play. It's a very complicated comp though, so it's a little annoying to coach.
Alrighty.
That was a lot easier.
Dive GOATs,
like
or votes, or whatever you'd like to call it, on Atlanta for defense.
And anti-GOATs for Fusion.
Yeah.
Fusion's gonna roll.
Depending on how this engagement goes, Atlanta going for a very aggressive engagement, especially for defense.
I like the play, but they did it a little bit too soon.
Yep.
If they waited like another second and a half, 2 seconds, then it would have been solid.
Yeah, they really needed to wait till they saw alarm.
Nah, you good, Morbid.
That's really your big...
This is an interactive review.
Where you should be pushing.
We have 2 brains in here talking. That way we can talk to chat at the same time.
LOS for him. Great pick by Nice. This engagement on the whole is lasting a lot longer than I think Atlanta wants it to.
Yeah, for sure. Am I yelling?
But Fusion's doing a good job at just sustaining positioning, you know, basic positioning, and making sure they're getting in the amount of poke damage they need to sustain that position.
Let me turn down my mic a bit. It should be better. My mic is a little bit sensitive. I'm just louder than IB. Yeah, dude. IB's pretty quiet. There's not much I can do about that. I have IB literally maxed out as like max as it can be. He's just a quiet bully, and I'm a loud bully, which does not necessarily synchronize very well.
Anti-Goats is just as synergistic as Goats is.
I wish I could
lose
put
one
IB louder.
person, the likelihood that you win the fight is much lower.
IB's on 200% on my Discord, and he's maxed out on here as well.
This is a great engage timing by Atlanta.
There's no ladder that I can make him, unfortunately.
They engaged right when they needed to, and they found the picks almost immediately.
Yeah.
Even through the EMP barrage.
I don't know about that play there, Chief.
You want pushing in again?
I mean, beating to push in again. I feel like, like it's 2 minutes left on the clock. Just play slow and chill. How do you beat ball quad DPS as Goats? By swapping.
Yeah, especially
Sash.
knowing that they just won the last engagement pretty efficiently without using a whole lot of ultimates. Saucy used his Grav later on in the fight, which I don't really think was necessary. And then Ajax beating here. I think they're just pushing into a choke point where Nice is going to have just that much more impact. Maintaining point control is vastly superior for Dotes.
Question coming in from chat. How do you beat quad DPS with Hammond as Goats?
How do you beat quad DPS?
Yeah, my answer was just a swap, but I feel like that's not necessarily in the spirit of the question. If I was to say swap Sash, I would say swap to like Kree comp, so like Kree, Brig, Lucia, Zen, Winston, Diva, or go for the other option where you go like Sombra and then another DPS and then like Winston, Diva maybe. I don't know. You have a lot of options you can swap to. If you were super hard set on sticking with Goats, I'd swap off your Bridget for a Sombra probably. I think that'd be the easiest play. And then you kind of just walk around and hack people. Kree comp doesn't work. Kree comp can work against quad DPS.
It
Can't confirm.
But it's really, it is almost hyper positioning dependent. So if you don't prioritize pathing and making sure that you're shutting down ulterior angles, then you will end up, taking way more poke damage than you should be. You won't have the overheal that you need to deal with it, and you'll end up losing. Like if you try to push the cart, let's say on Numati second, if you go into quad DPS with Hammond and you don't try to push outside in, then you're going to suffer if you try to push like straight up the middle, because you're going to be surrounded by DPS poking you on top of Hammond. Really the big thing to capitalize on is you have better healing, so the longer that you can extend the fight, the better the fight's going to go. So if you can find their slowest DPS, push that location using the edges of the map to cut off other LOS or other potential flank angles, then that's where you'll find the highest value, regardless of what you're using.
In general, playing against quad DPS is basically just playing around CC and the opponent's weaknesses. So like, if you know the opposing team is running a quad DPS and their Hammond makes like really dumb plays, then swap your comp to punish the Hammond, or swap your playstyle to punish the Hammond. If you're playing against a team and you know that their Widow is like a god Widow who like literally doesn't miss a shot, then you should be playing around the Widow. Have somebody go zone the Widow, have the rest of your team look to rotate around and collapse on isolated targets, etc. Just take into mind what they're doing good and what they're not doing good, and then look to punish that. Any comp can play into quad DPS. It's just hard. Goats, you can, like even OG vanilla Goats, right? Like Zen Goats, you can still play into quad DPS. It's just really hard. Like you have to intentionally path in angles where the Hammond can't engage to you, because if he engages, he'll be out of his team's LOS. And then once you path like that, then you have to like go from pathing where their DPS can't assist the Hammond to instantly being on top of a DPS to kill the DPS. Because that's like the only way you can get advantage. So you can play around it, but it is very challenging and takes a lot of finesse and like a lot of micro plays and micro calls mid set, which is why I said to swap. Because for the most part, if you're playing on an open division team, something in there is going to be lacking and you're going to screw it up. So just swap to make it easier.
Yeah, Moira is also a good way to counter the quad DPS. It provides you extra overheal, which is really what you require when the enemy team has more damage coming in. Ana is a decent pick, but she tends to get caught out of rotation too quickly, whereas Moira has ball and she has her own amount of CC. So let's say they're running like double sniper with a Sombra Tracer, then you can deal with the Sombra and the Tracer as Moira much more easily than you can as Zen without opening yourself up to getting hit by snipers. Just makes the entire composition a little bit more seamless, and can help keep your flex support alive long enough to support you.
Yeah, exactly. lots of swaps. All the swaps you guys are saying in chat would work. It's just depends on your team and their team. You know, just swap to what your players are best at and what their players are worst at, and then easy clap, you win games.
Yeah,
So I think there's got to be a way to use this. Go ahead.
It also heavily depends on the DPS they pick. Quad DPS means that you could have like something stupid like Ashe, Kree, Soldier, Widow. It could mean that you have, you know, Ashe, Tracer, Widow, Hanzo. I think I've seen in the past. But quad DPS could also be something stupid like Bastion, Junkrat. You know, pick your DPS. So it's really dependent on what strengths they have. Because if they're running, let's say, a whole big flanker comp where they're running like Sombra, Tracer, and Genji, you know they're going to be crashing hard. You know that you need the extra burst heal. So you know that you're going to need Moira. But Kree's going to be just as effective at maintaining the CC. Whereas you wouldn't want to go Soldier or Widow or Hanzo into that style of composition. Whereas if they're running, you know, the sniper-based quad DPS styles, then going Hanzo or going Widow could enable your team a whole lot better than going to something like Kree.
Yeah, it's situational. Chat's saying there's like a bunch of different variants and some are standard. The one thing I'd say is be very hesitant calling anything standard. I'd say standard for your range. When 1G was actively scrimming in preps for playoffs, like we scrimmed everything, right? We scrimmed like OWL teams to open division teams, right? And I can confirm that every single team was running a different standard version of quad DPS. Like everybody runs something different and there's no set standard. It's more just what that particular team is good at. So like if that team has a lot of really strong hit scan players, expect to see a lot of strong hit scan. If that team is really good at flankers, expect to see a lot of flankers. It's very situational and it will change depending upon what that team is good at. So again, just be very cognizant of like what they're good at and what they're bad at and be prepared to swap around that. This whole upcoming meta is going to be very swaps based in my opinion. So just learning to understand like what counters what and how to swap to play around that is going to be very important for teams.
Well, and especially in OWL, who's going to be playing on PTR for at least the first stage, I think you're going to see a lot of that picking and counter picking, but at the same time, you're also going to be seeing some behind the scenes strategy with that and taking compositions and using them in non-standard ways. So being able to take, you know, Soldier and turn him into somebody that can deal with flankers really well, or taking
PTR is
Ashe. I really hope to see a lot of Ashe because not only is she really great at denying CC, but she's also really powerful DPS wise.
Ashe is super strong right now.
Yeah, like she is the middleman between what Kree is good at and what Soldier is good at, and she has added mobility on top of having AoE based damage from her dynamite. Not saying that you can't eat the dynamite, which is going to be the case.
Thanks for the follow, Sash.
But Ashe is
thank you for the
really,
follow,
really
Sash.
Good. She is Widow and Soldier and Kree all wrapped up into one, which makes her incredibly powerful, especially at early fast engages, which is where OWL traditionally goes. OWL's engagements, you know, from engagement to disengagement are probably 8 to maybe 20 seconds long, whereas you're seeing a lot of these contenders teams and their engagements are 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds. Ashe isn't going to be good at the 30 to 60 second mark, but 0 to 30, she's going to absolutely destroy. As long
particularly if you have a good hit scan. Like if you have a good hit scan player, then Ashe is just kind of ridiculous. Some of the stuff Zappri was doing yesterday shouldn't be legal.
Yeah, like I would love to see like Logic's on Ashe.
It's pretty good, not gonna lie.
Probably do really well, because his Widow's decent, but he also likes the more aggressive Tracer playstyle. I think that Ashe is a good intermediary between the two. But again, we'll see. I think Pine is going to be absolutely stupid with Ashe because you can play more aggressive and you can get punished less frequently with it.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see how it plays out for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that Goats is still going to be meta, but part of me is hoping that they really just haven't messed with it enough. I know OWL teams have started practicing at least seriously in the last couple of weeks, so we'll see what ends up popping out of their meta.
I think it's definitely... Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. Go.
I was just going to say, I think it's definitely still too early to be assigning meta. Like, None of the contenders teams have scrimmaged enough to know what the meta will be. None of the Owl teams have scrimmaged enough. Like, it will take a very long time, and especially since Overwatch is so trickle down based for meta, like it's gonna take a really long time for the meta to like actually be changed for the most part. I think like we're conservatively looking at like at least another month before we start seeing a lot of not goats being played.
And of all of the metas that we've seen so far, I think this one's going to have the hardest time of trickling down, because you will see a lot of those swap based, a lot of quad DPS, a lot of triple DPS, potentially some sim, at least in my opinion. I think it's pretty good because it gives everybody mobility, which is invaluable in a lot of cases. But either way, I've been a fan of sim since her rework, and she just hasn't gotten any love yet. So I'm kind of hoping that Owl brings that out.
Yeah, sim is definitely situationally good. It's just very hard to make her work efficiently.
Yeah, and in quad DPS and triple DPS and whatever meta Owl adapts into, it's going to be really hard to overtake goats, even with the nerfs to tanks recently. Tanks and goats in general are just so much easier to play and execute on that and they're more forgiving. You run quad DPS, and even though it might be better than goats or dive goats, situationally, it's going to be substantially harder when you get to contenders and you have somebody that's less consistent, or somebody that can't scrim all the time because of work, or you go even further into open where things are even less consistent. And what you want is a forgiving comp, which is exactly what goats is, and that's why it's taken off so much. It's easy to run, you have a lot of overprotection from different heroes, you have a ton of healing, and it's sustain based, so you don't need a ton of burst damage, and you can't capitalize on the mechanical. Essentially, it's a really nice comp that makes everybody happy, whereas quad DPS, triple DPS, those types of things, you have to start taking space with DPS heroes, which is not a comfortable thing. They don't have the health pools that tanks do. So I think this one's going to take some time to trickle down, and it's going to take a lot of effort on the side of contenders and even open teams to try to transition into what we're going to be seeing in Owl. Now, if they release replays, hint, hint, wink, wink.
I think even if they release replays, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Triple DPS and quad DPS compositions are just, the playstyle around them is very complicated, and like the nuances therein are also very complicated, at least to play it at a high level. So I think even if they release the replays, it wouldn't make as big of a difference as people are thinking, just because of the fact that, like, unless you have competent staff who are able, or smart players, which, I mean, if you're talking about open division, both of those are typically not at the forefront of most teams. Like, you'll have like one or two smart players, and if you're lucky, maybe a smart coach. So I think it'd be very hard for open division teams to adjust to that play style without a lot of effort, in which case I think, again, most teams will just rely on, bread and butter goats, because it's very hard to punish. And it's a lot easier to swap one hero in goats and counter their quad DPS than it is to run your own quad DPS to beat their quad DPS.
Yeah, I do think that replays will have a big impact, because if you can inspect everyone's and how they're positioning and the shots that they're hitting versus the shots that they're missing, and kind of how all of those things have an impact, I still think that replays will change the way that contenders and open teams learn how to play different compositions and different styles. So I guess I'll agree to disagree with you on that one. But again, I think we both agree that it's going to take a long time, regardless, for any of that type of thing to trickle all the way through to open, and I mean, hell, even to comp.
Yeah,
it's going to take forever.
All right, so Numbani.
Back to maps.
Yeah.
All right, so Atlanta just overextended and pushed in with beat. Saucy's at half. We're looking at a pick from Elk, and Hawk just lost his mech by the look of it. Overextension by Atlanta, but it looks like Hawk might be the only one to suffer, depending on if they pop Trank for this. Questionable bomb.
This whole engagement so far was pretty questionable in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, Atlanta got literally no value out of that engage. They could have just chilled on point and done the same thing, but without committing ults to the fight as well.
Yep, I think this is one of the biggest gaps in contenders currently, is being able to swing with the punches. If things go standard, if you're pushing in and it's a normal engagement. Let's say a Zen gets picked, or you use a Grav Bomb, or you shatter, like Bash Shatter. All of those things are really easy for the teams to study, learn from, and then adapt to. But when something doesn't go standard, you need to be able to, on the fly, adjust to what's going on.
Yeah.
So, should Bernard have used bomb there? The answer is no, because he wouldn't have caught anybody, even based on the positioning that Atlanta had. It's not being comboed with anything. You're not enabling Nice to hit a nasty barrage. You're really just forcing people to sit behind a corner, which they already were, which is an easy transition for a dive go style. So yes, Atlanta fucked up, but so did Fusion, and getting people to recognize when the other team screws something up, that doesn't mean that we should throw good in after bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think in general, one of the biggest issues with contenders teams, as a whole, I think like all contenders teams struggled with this, was their ability for mid-set adaptation and adaptation in general. I think a lot of teams really lack the ability to figure out how to adjust to situations.
Agreed. It's something that takes a lot of time and a lot of studying, but I think the teams that do adapt well are the ones that you can tell have had decent coaching, at least in one point in their career, and they've set up a culture where they're learning the background, the behind the scenes, the things that make fights happen, instead of just learning, when they use Grav Bomb, do X.
Yeah, it's more about the if-thens rather than the just, hey, if they do this, then we do this.
Yeah, actually reacting to what's going on rather than just saying, oh, well, whenever they do this, we are going to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, that's really where Owl comes in to play. Those are that, like, if you're at an Owl level, you should have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of situations built up in your brain where you can pull those together and start adapting to the situations. At least hopefully.
Yeah. He just boop. Unlucky. Okay, so this is fine from Atlanta. Just being a little bit more aggressive, applying some pressure, pushing in more. If you're doing a good job of just resetting and getting out of dodge. So, swapping over to Goats here for Fusion. I expect them to path high ground, yeah? Path high ground, clear out Atlanta, make sure they're forced out once they clear high ground, drop the point, and play the aggressive angles there.
Absolutely. When you're running Goats into Dotes on this point, you have to take high ground control. There is no other option. Because if you push lower, then all they have to do is set their main tank, and they'll set Winston Diva up on high ground and just poke you till you can't move anymore. So it makes it very, very readable. I'm surprised that Fusion didn't rotate into dive Goats over Goats and then rotated over their main tank later. I don't think that this engagement is going to go very well for them unless Atlanta really screws up their rotation.
Yeah. Go Goats, Peppy. Yeah. One in doubt, Goats it out, boys.
That's a pretty out of position main tank.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
If they're just running into Arteria, all you have to do is sit on point and make sure that they can't push. So you sit, so let's say they actually get all the way in here. What does Gator realistically have to do? He has to stand right here and wait for them to try to push into him. As soon as they push into him, he jumps to high ground, either one of the high grounds, and then you have Hawk drop down over here or over here. And you just play, like, bounce around until they use their abilities so poorly that you can find an engagement. Instead of trying to force something like what Gator did and ended up getting himself picked. So it's definitely a screw up on Atlanta's side. Enabled this entire win.
Yeah, Atlanta's definitely feeding a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
You hate to see it, honestly.
Yep. Especially on this map, because second, if you don't have a clean first defense, even though Fusion didn't actually take the point, if you don't have a clean first defense disengagement, then you won't get a fast re-engagement at the beginning of second, which is critical to maintaining decent ult economy leading into second and third fights. Because if you push hard here, whether you have ultimates or not, you can either use or not, depending on, again, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but you can manage the ultimates on second well enough so that they don't have any ultimates as they're attacking for the third fight. And that's a big misplay.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Now they're trying to force an early engagement because that's where they're expected to fight, even though they weren't able to because of a very sloppy disengage from that first fight.
Yeah, and Fusion Uni wasn't caught off guard at all. They were prepared for it. And now they're going to give up all of second phase for the majority, or at least the majority of second phase. The earliest Atlanta will be able to recontest is like the end of second, which is going to be really bad for them.
Yep.
They're going to go for a grab D.Va here play for Atlanta, but I don't expect to get a lot of value. That's a really good play from Fusion.
It's a decent bomb position, but I wish Fusion would have actually pushed in with it.
The bomb itself was really solid. They're just like, they kind of AFK'd after they threw that. They definitely should have been a little bit more aggressive. I think that actually ended up costing them this point here, or capturing with that push at least. If they had pushed forward with the D.Va bomb, they would have been able to cap because Atlanta would have been zoned far enough that they wouldn't be able to touch. Gen 6 feeding for some reason feels good.
Yeah, not sure about that one.
Gen 6 pops, don't worry. I'm ready. I'm ready for it, boys. Let's see it.
A little bit of poke. Not 100% about just leaving your orb on Snillo, but okay.
Hey, man. Don't worry about it.
I really don't like how Fusion's trying to take this fight. They're trying to take it so slow. That was very readable.
Bop, I feel like you lied to me.
No way Atlanta should be losing it on that engagement. Fortunately for Fusion, Atlanta didn't push in, didn't really capitalize on it either.
If he was a bit of a misposition there, Snillo getting caught out is pretty bad.
But Fusion really should have just pushed one side hard instead of splitting themselves. Because at the beginning of this fight, so both of them tried to use Shatter, Bash Shatter, right? So Snillo was over here for a little bit, and then Changsik was over here. They were just spread here. And then when Atlanta went for it, they were also spread here. When you're using Bash Shatter, you should be looking for a linear play, not a horizontal one. And while it's going to end up working out, that's not an idea
keep going
from either side to try to make those things work.
We'll see in a second, Bitpop. We'll see. Okay, that's pretty fat Shatter. I hate you so much, Bitpop. Oh, that was... Please, sir. Not again in my Christian Minecraft server. I mean, he didn't kill 5.
Atlanta
he and Nice
because
killed
of
5.
the way that they finished first, have pretty much been on the back foot since that, stagger. First attack on second, and even into the engagement where they won, it really wasn't because they were playing aggressively.
They had an opportunity to like reset tempo a little bit at the end of second there after they won that fight, but they just like didn't really capitalize on that opportunity. They kind of just like AFK'd and waited. It's a good shatter from Gator, but they aren't really able to get any follow-up due to the trans coming out.
This is definitely a good example, though, of momentum transfer and being able to carry confidence through a map. At least for Fusion, good example for Atlanta to learn how a singular misposition or not disengaging fast enough can have a pretty dramatic impact on the rest of the map.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like King's Row first into King's Row second. The same thing happens if you don't clean up quickly enough at the end of first on defense, then you're not going to get enough engagements on second to really manage the ult economy effectively.
Yeah, that was a really good play from Ajax, from Sugar Free there as well, to set up the kill in the Rhyme. Very clean. Some good games so far.
For the most part, yeah. I'm not going to say that they're faultless, but you can definitely see some preparation, and a lot of work has gone into both of these teams to, both from the players and their staff, get them ready for this specific matchup.
Yeah, for sure. How long have we been going? Almost 3 hours? Dang, chat. We've been going for forever, buddy. What the heck? What have we got next? What's the next map? Do you know? Okay. That graph kind of put good about it. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Nobody.
Hanamura.
Hanamura. Yeah, Fusion. You run that comp.
Yeah, boy.
Please.
Alright, chat. We're going to finish up this map, and then we'll, I'll either go get dinner or I'll finish my placements. I'm not sure which.
I need to go to the bathroom real quick, but I will be back.
Alright, I will. Don't worry, I got this.
Okay. Have fun with the beginning of 2CP.
Thank you, I will. Is he gone? Let me look at his stream. He's not gone yet. Alright, hold on, chat. We wait for IBCrazy to leave all the way. Okay, chat. I want everybody to start spamming kappas in IBCrazy's chat. Please and thank you. I'll link it. Hold on. Alright, everybody go spam kappas at him so he comes back to the field of nothing but kappas. Thank you. Alright, so back to the actual review now. If we're going to be looking at Atlanta Academy versus Fusion University on this beautiful map of Hanamura. Coming in today, we got a lovely 68 degrees. Alright, so Atlanta is actually running this comp. Alright, so Atlanta's whole, we did what Fusion Uni does here in our OD match today, and we hard rolled. Nice job, Morbid. I like to hear it. So, Fusion Uni is playing the composition that is good against the composition that Atlanta's running. You want to know why? Because Fusion Uni is not dumb. You want to know why they're not dumb? Because they looked and they saw that Atlanta runs this comp a bunch, and Atlanta didn't change. And Fusion Uni is like, wait a second. We know how to counter this. We should do this. And Atlanta was like, wait, why didn't we change what we played for playoffs into our finals match? This was dumb. And everybody's like, yeah, you are dumb. It's a bit unlucky. Anyways, so Atlanta's going to do this thing where they have everybody sit up on high ground and then they're going to Maywall the choke. And it's going to be great. Nobody's going to see it coming, right? And then Fusion's going to do this thing where they like flank from like 14 and a half different angles and they engage. And then Atlanta's going to be like, oh, shoot and die. It's basically the game plan of what's going to happen here. Okay, so both teams are just kind of AFKing for a second, waiting. Fusion Uni is going to do their thing where they set up and get in a good position. Note here, very important feature, note Alarm. Alarm is doing a good thing. Alarm is doing the thing where he's AFK, providing an extra angle of damage. This is important because we also have Alarm doing, or not Alarm, we also have Elk doing the same thing, providing another angle. Then we're going to see people come around the back and provide angles. You know what we learned here today in the chat? Not only is knowledge important, what's more important than knowledge is angles. If we have angles, we're going to do the damage. And if we do the damage, we get enough damage, we can't even fix it with flex tape. So remember, take angles. Watch Hawk here. If you remember correctly, Hawk does something. Awesome. Yes, exactly, BitBop. Knowledge of angles is what we need in our life. You need to be knowledgeable about all the angles. Okay, so we have Changsik going point. Why does he go point? Because if he goes point, these guys eventually have to move. Then up here, we have Nice doing nice things up top. Why is he here? I don't know. He should be here shooting them, but whatever. It's good enough. And then again, we still have our supports over in main doing the damage. Concurrent angles or adjacent or whatever the other math terms are that I don't remember. Hawk goes to touch point, but because Hawk is bad, he gets melted. You want to know why Hawk gets melted? Because everybody looks and shoots Hawk. It's a good job, team. We did good. Note, Somber on point, playing a different angle from the rest of her team. That's right. We've got people over here. We've got people over here. We got all these angles. It's nothing but angles, chat. We're doing it. So now, Hawk goes to try to contest point, but he's contesting it, and he's contested from not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 angles. It's a lot of angles. So therefore, he takes a lot of damage. He loses most of his max, so he has to reset. Welcome back, IBCrazy.
Hello.
Talking about
Thanks
angles.
for the link.
No worries.
Yes, angles.
All of the angles, chat.
Angels. In the outfield. Ajax.
Ajax, he got the kill, because why, chat? That's right, he was playing an angle.
No, Ajax got clapped. You not see that?
Yeah, sorry, I missed for a second. I meant Elk got the kill because he was playing the angle. My bad. English is hard.
Okay, yeah.
Hawk can't move. Yeah, you're not wrong, dude. And look at this. Atlanta's being choked out. They only have one spot they can play. And you don't want to know why they can play that? Because there's nobody holding an angle. But it doesn't matter because they have a blade to go kill everybody who's stuck in that one angle. The math is strong in the stream, yeah. Stream learns how to do math
An
today.
interesting composition pulling out a May. But at the same time, whenever you're running that bunker style composition, you cannot let them get through the choke and just surround you.
Yes, that's what we talked about while you were gone, is that Atlanta ran this before, and Fusion is not dumb, so they countered the comp that they ran. And Atlanta was like, oh shoot, we're dumb for running the same comp that we ran in playoffs. It's important to note, stream, that just because something is working doesn't mean you keep doing it all the time. While it is not broken, and to not fix it is a very valid sentence, you should also not do the same thing over again in your finals match if you did the same thing in playoffs, and playoffs are streamed as well. Especially if there's like a delay between those two matches, because that's trying to just like asking to get rolled.
Yep. At least from a coaching perspective, the matches we review the most are the ones that tap in the most recently. So,
Yep.
And if you used it most recently, don't do it in a match next.
Yeah, or do it, but do it
Differently,
but do it
better,
in a
or-
different manner so as to bait them to countering what you're expecting to run. So like pick a Bastion and shoot a lot, but then don't play the same way you played before. ATL comp was so good
different angle.
running to go 24/7 meta,
Hold
but
different position.
yeah,
Plenty of opportunities to change things up and still run the basic style that you want.
exactly, Morbid. They're expecting you to play the
even
comp,
though you-
so they swap
You
because
hit a
they're not that.
50 or a half-court shot at one point in your life. Does not mean that you should go into the finals and then chuck it up there every time.
Excuse me, sir. Can you not use sports analogies in my chat? Thank you. I don't subscribe to this sports ball thing of which you talk.
Just because 5 DPS and a sim worked once does not mean it should work every time.
There we go. Okay, so I actually really like the May pick here. I would have liked it better if Hawk had swapped over to Doomfist. I think that's the optimal play in the situation. Because hey, if you're gonna run a May, run a Doomfist too. 5 defense.
I would actually disagree
I'd say
with that.
excluding.
I don't think the Doomfist is necessary, and I think that Hawk staying on Diva gives him a comfort pick that you wouldn't have otherwise. Doom definitely increased the amount of burst damage that you can put out, but they've already compensated for the lack of healing that Brig would have given them by transitioning over to an Ana. But maintaining Hawk on Diva gives you added mobility, so it allows you to shut down chokes more effectively, and maintain positional pressure better than what a Doomfist would. Doomfist gives you the burst, but I think Hawk's amount of comfort on Diva and the sustain that it gives is actually pretty good for Atlanta.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, I think it's situational. I think Doomfist in general is a better play when you're running the May. Regardless if it's a comfort pick or not, I feel like it would just get more value. But agree to disagree, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's different for every team.
Yeah.
Some
good bomb.
questionable.
You couldn't remember that
questionable
word?
plays
Which word?
by,
Bip-bop?
Fusion. Look at how split they are right now.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a misplay coming in from them. Good job on them to like stabilize and regroup, but again, also the same can be said for
They
Atlanta.
shouldn't be standing right there when they're already down one.
Yeah.
That's not the play.
Hey, look, it's a Maywall. Nice.
Nice.
Dude, what a sick play from Gator.
Oh, you want to see a sick play? You see the clip Numlock posted like a week ago?
Nah,
Weeks
you'll
ago?
have to link it to me.
Okay, let me pause this real quick. He's actually a monkey lord.
Why would Hawk be Brig?
Actually on this map too.
Hawk wouldn't be Brig. I don't know why Hawk would be Brig. I
It's
was
just
thinking
a
Hawk should
little
go Doom.
pixelated, but
Go good. I'm good. I'm on.
Holy, that's loud. Let's go ahead and mute that real quick. Dude, what a Chad.
Yeah.
Such a gamer. Very gamer. Much wow.
Mm-hmm. Did a good job.
Why wouldn't Hawk be
That's for
Brig?
sure.
I think that's the better play. Brig isn't necessarily needed.
Right.
She doesn't get a ton of value here.
Walls.
Yeah, go for it. Brig doesn't, like, I don't know. She just doesn't get a ton of value in this situation with the Atlantis comp. Going Doom would just get more value, inherently.
Sorry, before we start this, is the buff that May
can
and
send after
Sim
May
both
wall?
received into tanks. So being
So
able
May
to
does
left
Zoom, right?
click and freeze multiple targets at the same time
I'll talk
is
about it in a second.
huge, but it's something that nobody is really, I guess, acknowledged in a big way. Same thing with Sim, how she can shoot shields and not have to reload because she reloads off of the shield or whatever that mechanic is. I think those are two pretty big changes to try to impact goats in the way that it's played. I don't think people kind of give that specific point enough credit when they're picking May and or Sim into tank style compositions.
Yeah, it's also okay. So Bit Boppy Uderson was asking, why not have Hawk be Brig if we wanted to play around the May wall stuns? The reason is, in order to get value from May, you kind of have to be like aggressive with your walls, right? So like hitting them at chokes. Anna and Zen can't always be able to compensate on that, so it's better to play characters with faster mobility. So if Brig was to try to commit on a wall, she would probably end up dying, or at least be in a very, very risky situation and would need a lot of resources to get out. Doomfist, on the other hand, can kind of just go in, get orbed by Ajax or yellow nated by Dogman, and then just kind of reset out a lot easier. It's just a lot safer in general. Also, while yes, new Doom is awful, old Doom was still better, and this is played on old patch, which is why I was saying Doom would be a good pick.
Yeah, and in general, Brig would be better if you're running a more choke-oriented style. So, like, let's say you're on Numbani 3rd, and you tried to pull out a May on that, then I think you might be able to get it to work. But because there's so much high ground on this point, and you need to transition so quickly between the various chokes, depending on where they push, I don't think that the Brig could have been as effective.
You also don't have a Lucio, and Brig without Lucio is kind of monk-ass, because you kind of like the slowest thing known to mankind, and you're just like a little turtle running around hoping nobody knocks you over.
Yeah.
You have Anna pocket. But Anna can't see if she goes for walls over there, which is why it's monk-ass. You can only wall for main or up there, then, and even then the Anna can be LOS or forced out.
Poor wall.
It's just kind of Not to mention, Brig into Brig just counterstuns each other. Whereas if you bubble the Doomfist, it defeats the stun.
Does Blizzard go through walls?
No, sir. It is LOS based.
Okay. Thought that it was. But... Atlanta definitely showing some
Blizzard's haven't gotten like any value.
mechanical prowess when things don't go ideally. They've been able to pretty easily compensate for that and come out on top. Like, even if all of that play up top didn't, as we saw, it didn't go so well, but they were still able to transition away from it and kind of calm their way through it. So good job from them.
Blizzard has been getting a lot of not value. That's great link English there, Kelly. Blizzard hasn't been getting a lot of value. I agree.
Style of goats.
Yeah, for sure.
Rather than a strategic one.
Yeah.
I do not like that rotation at all.
Yeah, this was a little weird. Fusion kind of just doesn't really seem to understand how to play against them, eh? Well, let me phrase that. I'm sure they understand how to play against it. They're just very poor at adapting to playing against it.
But, like, why are they prioritizing low ground so much?
Because they don't want to get walled on high ground? But, I mean, like, Atlanta doesn't really have any follow-up to walls on high ground as well, so I don't know. In my opinion, just go high ground, or just jump the gap on the left side of the map, and then just walk the point.
Yeah. But low ground, just in general, on this point, is incredibly difficult to retake from, especially when you're running a Reinhardt. You have to push up those steps. There is no other way. You're forcing yourself into an even smaller choke than you would if you were pushing out high ground.
Yeah. It's prioritizing getting through chokes, not prioritizing the low ground. But they could have also prioritized going through the high ground chokes as well. They just only want low ground for the most part. At least use some baiting to keep them on their toes. Yeah, exactly.
You should never push through choke and then just immediately drop to low ground. Especially on this map.
You mitigate a lot of the value that you got from getting through choke. They also, Morbid made a good point saying you could have used some baiting to keep them on their toes, which I agree with. I mean, you could also have done set plays, right? Like if you want to pass through high ground, bait them to wall. As soon as the wall drops, throw your diva bomb through the window onto the high ground and then rush into them. Like there's a lot of counterplay that you could have done. Fusion just really seemed kind of lost there. Guess were they too interested for that choke? But if you walk high ground, you could also have
OT spawns.
I don't know. Like I said, speed boosting through the left side of the map across the gap would just be more value. Hey,
yeah.
Fusion seems to be pretty good at shooting things.
Yeah, especially when they were down. I think it was 3 people on point, Tracer and 2 supports for Atlanta. They weren't able to get a pick soon enough to push them back off. It's definitely a good retake off of Fusion.
It's crazy, dude. The fact that they actually won this fight is just absurd. Like that's such a misplay from like Atlanta, just not killing everybody else fast enough.
I would love to see both of these teams on non-GOATS metas. I think both of them are going to be nuts once that happens.
Yeah. All right. So Fusion is running a choke control composition, a offset of the zone control comp. Man, that's pixelated. Hold on a second. All right, well, that's a little better. All right. So we have the May to control the choke with the Orion Zarya body blocking, and then we have Snillo playing Ashe to just kind of control angles as they come in. Then on the other side, we have Atlanta playing El Classic Goats. Expect to see them do like that and go point, or do that and go point, or go that way to point. One of those 3 options.
Yeah. Ashe is great at CC and running and control style composition, so I would not be surprised to see if Fusion runs a more control style GOATS.
Hey guys, you see what they did there? They waited. They saw Fusions was running a composition that was bad for GOATS, and they swapped. It's crazy. Adaptation. We're doing it.
Yeah, really.
They're like, wait a second. We're going to play GOATS into a May at choke. Let's not do that. And then you see what happened here? Fusion was like, wait a second. They swapped to a dive. Let's not play in the open. Let's go to point where we're safe. Dude, orange is the meta for Visor. I don't know if you guys know this.
Open, just dash, reset.
Orange and black is the wave. Those are like the 2 color waves. That is you the double entendre for wave right there?
I am surprised how much damage Atlanta's taking. I mean, I really shouldn't be because Fusion has an Ashe. And Ashe is really good.
Oh my! That boy almost died.
Good shot by Snillo.
Why? Well. Oh, okay, never mind. This kid's insane. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Ajax got him though. Good job, Ajax.
Yeah.
That was some really pog play.
Ashe. Holy crap. Ashe is just pumping out damage.
Yeah. Maximum stagger. I like it. Dogman is dead. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta just kind of like hard fed there.
You could have charged him back like towards door, but I don't know. Maybe that's maximizing.
Dogman also almost died there again.
A little too much.
This guy's just standing him in. Yeah, you're not wrong, dude. I don't know what he's doing.
I do like how Fusion is playing back. They know that Snillo is one of their biggest. I mean, their most substantial damage source, so they need to wait till he's back.
Yeah, Snell's the win condition. Wait for Snell to get back. Ooh, okay there. That's unfortunate. Nice kind of just like hard fed there. Like really hard fed there. We're talking like Dogman and hard fed there.
Yeah.
Gitter should like 100% die here. Please, Saucy. Or Bernard, rather. I'm an idiot. Alright, this is a pretty solid play overall from FU. Just like really solid cleanup onto them. Just very passive play, staying alive, making sure that they give space for your Snillo to just hard carry and for Bernard to get like 1,000 charge and just kill everything. Yeah, I know they both didn't do anything.
As long as you can retake effectively.
Nice is having a hard time.
I'm not
gonna
say Nice did, but the rest of Fusion was able to clean up pretty well.
I think swapping Nice off of this May is a good play here.
Yep. Especially with Sugar Free on Brig, counter bash that's a glorious shatter.
I'm gonna rewatch that one real quick, chat. Hey, chat. If you're playing Goats into Woats and the Winston is dumb enough without clearing the Ryan to jump onto your backline, do you know what you get to do? If you answered Shatter, you got the right answer. Also, if you're the team that's playing Woats into a Goats team, make sure that you're not all stacked for Shatter when your Winston jumps, because, you know, that happens.
I think Ajax was also with Gator at the time, so he beat off screen and didn't get any value from it.
No, Ajax got 6.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Didn't
See?
think so.
Yeah, he gets like 5 or 6. He was up wall riding over here, so he was safe.
Oh, yep, there he was.
He gets everybody.
Okay. All right, my bad. I saw Hawk just melt, and I assumed that it didn't go so well.
Yeah. Ajax got a good beat, Crab.
Decent beat.
Ah, that was better than decent. Come on, man. He got like a 5 man. Poor Ajax, never lucky. Alright, so Fusion's kind of through that fight. Really great shot to start off with. Then no followization up upon that. And splitting very aggressively. Yes. Hey, dude. I am a master of English, alright? I'll have you know I got all A's in English. I don't know why, but I did.
Okay.
Will never cease to amaze me that I managed to not fail English.
Not a big fan of Changsik staying on Rhine on this. Especially running into Wodes.
Yeah, I think it's situational at best, honestly. Like,
all that Atlanta has to do is push down main, make Changsik drop, and then rotate high ground.
That's true. I think at the same time, though, like, either way, I don't know. Like, Ryan and Winston has negligible value either way, so I think it's fun to not swap. I think he just wants to get shatters. I think the thought process for Changsik here is, oh, they're not running a Ryan, so I can go Ryan and either get free shatters or force them to swap to Ryan, in which case our team has a better matchup.
Yeah, which is what they did.
What stops Fusions from just walking back to high ground in that
generally
scenario?
Map that has all
If you walk back to high ground, then they just go point and kill your
I
team.
tend to prefer Winston on it.
Because it's a long ass rotate. That's a Reinhardt without speed.
Like this one. But decent kiting by Fusion. Kind of interesting that they didn't try to take the fight a little faster.
Interesting position from Elk here. He's like, this is another thing like that I talked about earlier where they bait players. Like, you could see that they intentionally split Elk away from Alarm so that if they all tried to commit on Elk, they would have to run past the rest of the team to get there. And they would like end up feeding in the process.
Also great hesitation by Elk not using Nano on Changsik when I could see that he really wanted to.
Yeah, holding both the Nano and the nade to make sure that he actually gets value. But then you go back to point 2. Yeah, I mean, you could do that, but it'd just be a bunch of really long rotatings, and anytime you're a defensive team spending a lot of time rotating, it gives the attacking team
saving up bolts for a couple of fights here.
It gives the attacking team more opportunity to do stuff, which you tend to not want to do.
Now they're stacked.
Trading out 1 for 1, nothing too crazy.
Bomb was a little high.
It's a good trans coming out from Atlanta.
This is kind of the
it wastes the attacking team's time, though.
Is one where I appreciate Winston more than
I mean, it's 50-50, right? Like,
you're really just
you can force people's time either way.
It's not a linear fight anymore. Atlanta doing a decent job at executing, but I don't think their kill rate's high enough to
overcome. I agree, Morbid.
Overcome the respawns.
So also getting boop there is pretty bad for them.
Mm-hmm. So although your Zen is a primary source of damage for this comp, Zarya is pretty huge late fight.
They're doing a good job though of not dying, just kind of staying alive, focusing on the objective, making sure they shoot everything. I just feel like they had Nano forever and wanted to get off of it. Maybe that could be the case.
Ended up picking up their killer rate.
To be fair, Elk has said before that that he really likes playing Ana on this point. He thinks Ana Zen is really good. Yeah, it was a pretty solid map. Alright, well, good review, Mr. Crazy. I think I'm gonna head off and get some dinner, but I wish you success with the rest of your review.